Oops.
So we're doing, hi everyone.
Hey.
Hey, Nico. All right. So for those of you on Clubhouse, we're also simultaneously broadcasting on Clubhouse as well. We are on several different platforms to do this recap. We decided that it would make sense for us to be on Twitter. We are on a few YouTubes, as well as some LinkedIn pages as well. So if you know the BW blockchain Twitter, you can see us live is Nicole and I right now. For those speakers who've been on in the past and will come on, please join us in Discord. Go to the green room, click on that link and jump on the stage. We want y'all to be featured. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. Some major news that has happened in the US, right? And we just wrapped up, well, actually a few hours ago, we wrapped up our event, the International Women of Blockchain event that occurred earlier this morning. And we're doing that every day of the week. I'm sorry, every day on every week here in March. We are streaming to you live from 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. We are tapping into the international women across the globe who are in blockchain, and we're bringing you several different showcases of things that they are creating and building and working on different. Okay. All right. So I'm getting feedback and everything.
Got it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Beautiful, right? We had some issues with technology earlier this morning, but it is what it is, right? It happens to the best of us. But you know what? I think the best thing about today's event was that we were able to tap into some of our ladies in Africa or who are of the African diaspora, and we were able to have a thorough discussion about the impact of NFTs in Africa. And I had the fortunate privilege of jumping on because, our speakers across Africa, unfortunately, some of them could not join at the right time and we had some technical issues. But however, we had Maya, and Maya is a revolutionary pioneer within her own space. She's an artist. And what she's trying to do is bridge that gap between African artists and using this technology. And, she's Rwandan. So we got that representation going about the within the continent. And being able to talk about that and how the need is very much important and how this whole space is impacting Africa as a whole, right? It's giving people there opportunities to tap into the rest of the world. Oftentimes, some countries are left behind, with no running water, no electricity, and all these things. But blockchain, I mean, it's not solving everything, but it's at least creating that initial opportunity for people to tap in. Those opportunities come in the form of, just the simple cryptocurrencies, right? Being able to have a currency to be able to trade and transact with other people. And then being able to participate in different use cases like NFTs and finding opportunities from that. I think it's fantastic for the entire African diaspora. So with that said, Nicole.
Hey, yeah. So I think one thing that today definitely highlighted, one of the questions, or one of the things that people kind of say about this space is, oh, it's open for everybody and everybody's got opportunity and you can come here and make things happen. And that's true. But it's also really true that folks are dealing with real issues. So it's bigger than just, oh, let me go learn how to make an NFT. I don't have stable internet. I don't have any internet. How do I get to this space? How do we reach people who we might not have access to or who don't have access to us? So we have a very healthy community on Clubhouse, both Yinka and myself. We have Blackverse, and we also have Black Women in Blockchain Council and Black Women in Blockchain. And so these are clubs where we're helping cultivate these conversations. We're spurring on kind of these initiatives to help people wake up to the fact that this space exists and it has opportunity for everyone. But there are people who don't have access to Clubhouse. There are people who don't have access to cell phones. They don't have access to stable internet. And we saw that in real time happening, just kind of the challenges. I mean, we had one guest, we couldn't get her on. And it was about 10 times of trying. And finally, you know, she came on for just a second and then the issues kicked back in. So, you know, be mindful that a lot of us are very lucky where we are right now to be able to act and move in this space. But hey to everybody, because we are doing a first for us, and that is we're simulcasting in many different places right now. I don't think we started Discord, but we have a Discord stage also. We are in Clubhouse, on LinkedIn, on 2 different YouTube channels and Twitter. So hey to everybody. Welcome. I'm going to post some information so you understand what we're talking about. We are talking about the International Women of Blockchain conference that is happening all month long. This is a month-long initiative for us to bring women to this space, highlight women and celebrate women in this space. Yinka is the founder, and I will let her talk about that. But we are going to keep things moving along. So Yinka, tell us about IWB and why did you start this whole thing up?
Wow. Okay. So the International Women of Blockchain, you know, well, in 2018, when I created BWBC, there was actually a movement that happened way before I even thought about creating BWBC. And it was around January, right after the Bitcoin conference that happened around that time, where, you know, a lot of the individuals that went there realized that the whole conference was catered towards the male species, right? From everything that you saw visually to, you know, the after party, it was just like, you know, people didn't really assume that females were in this space. There was an uproar, and a lot of women decided to collectively get together. Instead of complaining, they were going to create a path, even though there may not be a path, you know, that's welcoming for us. We wanted to create a path. So all across the globe, these women got together. We used Telegram to basically create that network, because Discord wasn't really big around that time. So at least in the space. So we used Telegram to create that network, to build the speaker list, right? And start circulating that. And around that time, there was a lot of networking that was going on. And so we consciously were creating pathways for each other, and we were supporting each other and seeing that movement. There was, you know, other things that happened that made me realize there's a need for us to have one for Black women as well, and that's why I created BWBC. It was that whole movement that spearheaded a lot of what we see right now. A lot of the women that are at the top of, you know, a lot of these projects, they actually stem from that movement. And so, you know, seeing that and then coming back in 2021 and hearing that buzz again, that there's not a lot of women, you know, maybe women aren't interested. It just felt like it was a need for us to tap into this space once again and actually showcase that there are women. And I have to say, like, when we put out that call, I was kind of holding my breath, right, to see who was gonna respond. But to know that we have well over 100 women who have tapped in, wanted to participate, showcase their work, and it wasn't just Black women; it was women across the globe, right, who was interested. So far, we have speakers who were in a speaker from Australia. We have speakers from the UK, speakers from Chile, Spain, Nigeria, Ghana, speaker representing Rwanda, speakers all across the US, different time zones and everything. I mean, that's a testimony to the strength and the power that we as women have in this space, because we're not just participating in one use case, we're showcasing various use cases all across the globe. And I just think that's, fantastic. And it really shows that there is a need, because every time these ladies jump off the stage, they're either in the backstage or even on camera thanking us for creating this, right? Thanking us and saying, "Oh my God, can you believe I can't?" Dr. Tammy, you welcome. But it's and there was a need, and it just so happened that we stepped up and said, "You know what? Let's go ahead and create this." And mind you, this was created within less than 2 months. So, while you saw us on Clubhouse and you probably saw us on Twitter and other places, we were like literally working day and night to put this together. And I can't say, that this was an effort that was done by me solely. It was an effort that was done by all the committee members. All their work that they've been providing into this has been valuable. Nicole is like our technical guru. She got our Discord jumping and popping. She like literally the live stream. Then Nicole will tell you the story. We went and shopped around. We said, we have this event. It's not just a couple of days. It's a whole month. And we had platforms that were like, we don't have the capability of doing that. They literally told us that. And then if you want us to create a capability, it's going to cost you money. Nicole said, we need to start thinking about some other avenue. And she started to work. You probably saw her do a couple of test runs if you're paying attention. And eventually she realized that StreamYard was going to be the platform that we use. And, I can say that it has been running seamlessly. With technology, you're always going to have some kind of issues there, but that's beyond our control. But I just like to say thank you very much, Nicole, for the work that you're doing. Your involvement in the space, and I'm going to keep quiet and let you talk.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting and challenging. But it's something, right? So we were told straight up, if you want to do this type of thing, it is going to cost you to the tune of $20,000 every couple of days. That wasn't something that we had, right? So, we just didn't have access to that. We knew it was going to be a month. At first, we'd said weekdays, and then somebody wanted to do every single day of the week. So that's what we did. But it's something that we pulled off. And I am a person who tries to go the free route when we can, right? So if there's something that's available that we have access to that can increase productivity or knowledge, then let's use that, and then do add-ons as needed. And so we found a platform, and we've made it work, and we are delighted that is something that we have been able to do. But it could not have happened without us all coming together and putting those solutions into place. We even got hit with if you guys want help right now, it's gonna cost you. And so that wasn't something that was possible either. I think that, we are putting on an event that is extraordinary. It really, really is. We've seen a lot of conferences come and they are charging quite a bit to be a part of them. This one is $25 for your ticket, and that gets you access to the whole month. It also gets you access to the replays as they come out. And the Discord, which, Y'all don't know about Discord. Let me tell you about Discord. So, Discord is an application. It's a social audio app. It's a social community building app. And so, above being a social audio app, that's just one of its components. It builds communities. It was created to build communities. And no, I do not work for Discord. I am not associated or affiliated with Discord in any kind of way. But early last year, or so late last year, mid last year, last summer, I started, dipping my toes into this space more seriously. And so I found that people were having issues with Discord. They just couldn't find their way into actually being able to use Discord and being able to navigate Discord. So I started Discord training in September. So I started Discord training on Clubhouse for Discord, right? So we are on Clubhouse and learning how to use Discord. And so I train and teach people on how to actually use this app and be effective with it, so that you can participate in some of the drops and things that are going on, and you can participate and take action in these communities. Because what you don't know is that in Discord, we have the ability to make sure that you see what we want you to see and gate everything. And we don't really talk about that a lot, but it's possible. So I knew that as soon as I heard people saying, well, I don't see anything in Discord and I don't know how to use it, that meant that they were being locked out of things like pre-sale lists. They were being locked out of special drops. They weren't getting airdrops because they weren't doing the activities that needed to be done to get those airdrops. So there's a lot that goes into this thing and into being a part and a member and a participant of a community, or being seen that way. And Discord is key to that. So definitely tap in. If you want to learn more about Discord, hit me up on learndiscord.com. You can schedule an appointment. We can talk about your needs and then go from there. Also create servers or do server implementation for upcoming projects and things like that. But we are not here to talk about that, so I'm done. We have a whole lot going on in the world, and today is Worldwide Web3 Wednesdays, and man, it hit like a truck. So what's going on around the world today?
Oh my God. So let's bring up Shirley. Shirley, come on up.
Hi everyone.
Hey Shirley, how are you?
I'm good. I apologize for not switching on my video. I'm in bed. I'm in the UK, but I so wanted to be here. So it's like slightly late for me. So I'm in bed because I've got COVID, but I really just wanted to be here and just be part of this.
Thank you. No, thank you for joining. See, look at that. International. She's all the way in UK, about to go to sleep. She said, let me tap in. We really appreciate that, Shirley. So,
and want to wish you a speedy recovery. So please take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Yes. A lot is going on right now, and particularly involving cryptocurrencies, this whole blockchain space that we're creating, right? And we just recently found out that Biden did, our president in the US, did sign the crypto bill, right? And so with that, there's restrictions coming for us in the US in this space. Also jumped into our wonderful Dianera. Shout out to Dianera. Her club, Think Crypto, I believe is the name of the club on Clubhouse. She and her crew were talking about Virginia being one of the new states, I guess, that's now allowing banks to custodial your crypto. I'm sorry. I have to laugh, but we'll talk about the reasons why. But now banks are able to custody your cryptos. And in the article, they basically lay out, how they're going to implement that process. And, when you get to I think the fourth or third bullet point, you can't help but to laugh because to me, it definitely is against everything that we want in a space. But, some people want those options. Throughout this event, we've been stressing decentralization. We understand that there's a need to educate people educate people within the community and educate people outside of the community, because what we're building is not just a copycat of Web 2, right? We're moving towards Web 3, and Web 3 is decentralization. Lacey, who is part of a resume, a Web 3 resume building company called Metro Info. Meta Intro. She mentioned how, she's also trying to help people who are coming from Web 2 change their mindset, because a lot of the times they're thinking, oh, it's a copycat of Web 2, which in essence, it isn't. It isn't. This space is totally different. It's, imagine how you would want the world to be if you owned the data that you created or the data that represents you, right? You want to be able to navigate freely. You want to be able to participate any way you want. You even want to have that ability to charge for your data. So that's essentially what the ideal, vision of Web3 is. I call it a hypothesis right now because we're working towards that. And in order for us to move towards that, we need to shift that mindset. So with all that said, with Web 2 and knowing that we did not have control, and we're trying to create a space that we do have control, how do we deal with central entities that still want to maintain that control? Because as we're seeing, US government is not going to relinquish that control, and no other government is going to relinquish that control as well. But they want to participate, right? Because they all talking about CBDC and, some other vehicles, etc. How do we, as people who are building, lay out the foundation for them to follow?
You're asking that question, and my mind is it's going it's going around. It's almost like you got to be careful what you wish for. Many, a long time ago, many in the sort of decentralized space were like major adoption, mass adoption, mass adoption. And as we move further along that line, it's good for us because it validates us, it vindicates us. We're not insane, we're not scammers, right? But on the flip side, as you say, there are the powers that be that will just never allow it. Regulators who basically want to protect, or they'll say customer protection, market stability, we need to regulate this space. So it's kind of finding the balance. What do we actually want? For everyone who's listening, I don't know how many of you have actually read the original paper by Satoshi Nakamoto that talks about crypto and what it's trying to do and taking out that centralized, trusted party. It's a paper that I read and I thought, wow, this is genius and I love it. And it's not just, I think that paper focused a lot of Bitcoin, but I love the whole decentralized movement, ownership of your own stuff, your items, your data. I think that's really, it's something that I, as a personality, I like. I think that and I think when I'm answering your question, how do we sort of find balance where we can allow people to embrace a decentralized world with its risks, with its difficult user interface, because let's face it, it's not the most friendly user interface, swapping things, these wallets and, wallet security, having to disconnect from certain dexes before you get to another one, because I've been hacked, right? We've all been there. We've all learned through this, right? The protections are not as much. So how do we do that? I feel that we need to really talk to people, engage with them, help them understand what is the crux of this technology, this cryptographic technology, what does it offer us? Once we are able to understand that, people in their own right coming to this new space can try and understand some of the use cases that benefit them, because I feel that you talking about CDBCs, I just think so many people are going to fall for that. I come from a country where, in fact, I don't know if anyone's actually seen the CDBC map. All these countries are trying to get in. It's like, we need to get in. We need to maintain that control. So many people just don't think of money in the way that we do. Anybody who's in this space, trust me, when you ask them what is fiat, they're not saying, is it a car? They get the difference, right? And that is the difference. It's that understanding of what money is, how money's made, how money retains value, right? I mean, right now we're talking about inflation rates that are ridiculous, like, you know, goes back to the 70s. You know, a lot of us can't relate to that. And we're actually looking at the erosion of, well, your spending power, which is huge. And one of the things that crypto, or at least, yeah, Bitcoin, let's say in particular, one of the things that it was doing, or a lot of people believed in, was the fact that it's a hedge against the inflation. Right now, it's difficult to say because obviously the prices are changing, but I also believe that that is because the mass adoption is happening, and a lot of these hedge funds and big wallets have really come into that space and are able to almost converge it to the, you know, the sort of standard trading market. So that is, again, what do we want to, it's, you know, be careful what you wish for. What do we actually want?
I laugh because you're regurgitating everything that I've been telling people for a while now. Be careful what you wish for, because mass adoption doesn't mean what you think it means, right? We want people to come into this space. We want a lot of individuals to come into this space, but mass adoption also means that corporations now have the clear space to enter as well. And when they enter, are they understanding that we're trying to create something that's different, right? I think a lot of people wanted mass adoption because, you know, it had the capabilities of providing monetary value, right? With the corporations and the hedge funds and the financial institutions, you're getting big money. Big money is now playing in this field, which is also helping the space scale, right? But to what detriment? And are we willing to give up the ideal of what decentralization could be for just a little bit more of that mass adoption concept, and having the likes of, you know, these huge financial institutions coming in and basically doing a copycat of what they currently have, because they've seen no issues with what's already out there, right? We have JP Morgan, who recently announced that they're going to have a presence in the metaverse. So they're going to have a bank in the metaverse. And when you think about that, okay, cool, you know, but at the same time, is that how we envision decentralization to be? Right? So we really have to step back, and I guess it may be time for us to have that discussion about what is decentralization. How do we all envision it? And can we all come to a consensus about what we're creating?
That's a great question. Sorry, Nicole, did you want to say something?
Yep. So thinking about what we just said, right? Do we want to come to a consensus about what the decentralized metaverse is? That seems counterintuitive to what the decentralized metaverse is, right? Like, we talk about these things all the time. We get ourselves caught in these little loops and holes, and trying to make sure that we're being true to decentralization. And I think that there's something to be said for, yes, providing a standard, maybe, but do we want that? What does it look like? We already have a standard for the metaverse that somebody put out. And I now know why I have issue with that, because it's a person's vision of the metaverse. It's a person's definition of what the metaverse is, and people have bought into it. So that gives it some validation. But man, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So I don't know that we have just one. I don't know that that's all that there is, but I know that with this executive order, I'm hearing words that I don't like. The words that are being used are the reason why we're leaving, right? Like why we're leaving the thing that doesn't work. I'm hearing protections and oh my gosh, harnessing knowledge and information. Like you're stealing, like, just in the executive order, you're thereby taking the things that we're trying to hold on to, and I don't like that. I am definitely diving deep on this one. I think for the executive order specifically, I think that there's a great opportunity for the federal side, right? So if you think about just blockchain, like if it had just been centralized blockchain, because there's a private blockchain, right? I think the federal government fits squarely in that space. They're a perfect candidate for that. But when you're starting to talk about the decentralized blockchain and what that looks like and what it does, then we all get defensive, because that's not where you're supposed to be operating. You're supposed to be outside of this space. Let us do our thing. It's been building up, right? So I think there's a lot that we can talk about. We can like zero in on, but this is new, and so people are trying to absorb what's happened, dissect what's happened, and then find where we're sitting at the end of the day. So yeah, Shirley, what did you want to tap in?
No, I think you've covered that quite well. And what scares me is like we've got this great opportunity, and it's like, hey, we're going to get in. And that's great. If you're going to get in, try and correct some of the problems that are present in the current system. There are huge problems in the current system. I don't know how many people are aware, but the money in circulation just in our pockets, between us is about what, 8%. So where's the rest of it, right? It means that our money's cheap, right? There's no value. As we know, there's no gold-backed currency, right? Fiat currencies generally tend to fail. If you look at GDP to like borrowing ratios, like I think for the US, you guys are really leading that one. I mean, it's like, isn't it over 100% right now? And
Yeah, ridiculous.
right, which is really, it's great. It's not a great, it's not great. So I feel that where people want that decentralization, not just on the money side and the meaning of money and all that, is just ownership. Because again, it's quite scary that and Nicole, you mentioned somebody, I don't know if you were purposely trying to avoid using names, but I don't really feel that anybody's looking forward to another future where, again, somebody who issued a note Q4 of last year put forward his view of meta, right? I'm not looking forward to that. One of the reasons that I discovered what data is really about is become as my background as an Amazon seller. Prior to doing that, I thought Facebook was a social media company, and then you realize actually it really isn't. It's a data company. That's what it is. It's a database. And your data, I mean, they talked about what's it called? The scandal. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. But that's a small part of it, because we as sellers used to be part of groups, and there was a lot of data moving around freely. And I'm talking real personal data, like a lot of it, right? And that's scary. Once you've seen that once, I'm not looking forward to for another future like that. I don't want to be sort of like, I don't want my data sold in that way. I don't want to be, and a lot of people didn't realize when we started using these free tools, we were the product, right? Right now, I have my Amazon, gosh, she's going to wake up, my Alexa, and yep, she's up listening. And it's like, hey, Shirley, last month you bought this, and that is scary, because actually, I don't know if you guys have seen a YouTube video. I don't want to go too much off, but I do feel it's important to realize that the ownership of your stuff really matters, right? There's a lady who did a freedom of information request from Amazon, and they tried to not respond. Eventually, after a lot of pressure through the European Union, they gave in, and she got this huge list of all the data points she had on her, and it was quite shocking. So I think a lot of people just don't realize what ownership means, because they've not been party to some of the conversations we have as people in technology, people in this kind of space, right? Most people just don't think like that, and that is why they don't really get it, and why it's important to protect our rights and our ownership, right? That's it. If I want to sell that, that's different, but having no choice, that is a problem. So just wanted to add that. And just before, you're talking about the crypto bill, but I've just seen also the EU are going to take a vote on that as well. Interestingly enough, they're very coordinated,
Yeah, yeah, it's true. So I'm doing a quick dive into what the bill entails. So it's calling on federal agencies to take a uniform approach to regulation and oversight of digital assets. Now, the way that the U.S. Securities regulation happens is really Congress senators enact laws that the SEC, Security Exchange Commission, applies, right? So now that statement to me just means that Congress is either going to have to come together and create some kind of set rules of regulation, because the SEC are really, they're waiting on the sidelines, right? Solely because there's nothing that this particular space, right? Because you're dealing with digital currency. You're not dealing with security as we know it, that was written by, what is it, the 1933 Act, right? And has been applied in 1934 and 1940, et cetera, all the other acts after. So it's different. And their whole stance is, does it align with some kind of violation within the Security Act? And if it does, then we're going to go after them. And that's why, some of their sanctions have been really about marketing and how they're advertising these securities to the general public. Or sorry, my bad, that was a wrong choice of word. How they're advertising these cryptocurrencies to the general public. Are they advertising it as a security? Are they adding guarantees? Are they doing something that, they were automatically identify as a violation of the law, right? And then back in 2018, I believe it's 2018, 2017, when the chairman of SEC, as well as the commodities future, decided that they were going to stay away from Bitcoin and Ethereum, but then leave all the other cryptocurrencies as we will, look at them on a case-by-case basis. It's really because, one, for Bitcoin, there was nobody they could go after, and in that regard, that really set a precedence, right, for how a lot of these cryptocurrencies attempted to navigate. Some of them succeeded to some degree, some of them failed to other degrees. And then Bitcoin didn't really have a marketing team, whomever decided to find a white paper and get into it at that early onset, it was at their own risk, right? There was no roadmap. There was nobody tied to it. And so it was, how do you go after something like that? Because the SEC goes after individuals, right? Individuals who represent the company, and they do go after the company, but in order for you to go after a company, there has to be somebody tied to that company, right? That you can go after. So that's why I say they go after individuals that represent the company. So for Bitcoin, there really isn't an individual. I mean, we know Satoshi Nakamoto, but then we spoke earlier that he could be a woman, right? Because how many guys do you know it tends to remain anonymous forever? And at this point where, they can get all the accolades of creating something that is revolutionary to the way that we see our future right now, right? No one has stepped forward, but a female, she don't want to be known, she don't want all that smoke and all that headache, right? So that's why a lot of people assume that it could be a female. But in regards to that, this person who created something that we're all utilizing and it's spearheading this revolution is nowhere to be found. So the regulators can't tie it to a person. How are they going to regulate it? They can't regulate it. However, others, they can, right? And so now we have a bill that basically says all agencies, here's a call to action. We're going to need to start figuring out how to regulate this space. The problem is, one, as I mentioned, there is no rules and regulation that pertains to what we're creating. Two, you're dealing with digital assets, right? How do you regulate technology? And that was one of the topics that kept coming up in the earlier stages of the regulatory bodies trying to come together and say, how do we do this? What do we do? To some degree, as digital currency, you cannot regulate technology. So it's either the Congress people have to get together and come up with a new law, because the SEC is going to find it really difficult. And there's going to be several attorneys that are waiting for the SEC to even attempt that, right? Because they're going to argue there's no precedence. This is something that you don't understand, that you don't know. This is, and if we fully move into a decentralized realm, then we're going to have cryptocurrencies similar to Bitcoin, where there's no central entity that you can go after, right? And how do you navigate through that? How do you regulate that? So I think to some degree, this bill, even though there are some concerns, I think it's quick to jump without fully understanding this space. Nicole, what do you think? You're on mute.
Yeah, I think I'm multitasking, and there's a lot going on in this space, and it's some of the stuff is expected, right? Like, so I think that when most people come into this space, that's kind of like the first thing that logical people say is, yeah, you can't keep government out. They're going to be here eventually, right? But I think the hope was that we would not have that would not be a problem. And so, they're trying. The other thing, though, that really comes to light is, I think Shirley said this earlier, is this is validation for us. This is validation that the thing that's been happening here is the thing that should have been happening here, right? And a lot of it is validation by the way of kind of the language in what's been put out here. The technology is what they're coming after. They want the tech. The U.S. wants to be on top again. So that is very evident in what has been issued, as well as the fact that we know how long it takes an individual to come to grips with decentralization, right? So you put out some ideas, you start talking, you talk about cryptocurrency and a wallet and self-sovereignty, data sovereignty, and just all the terms that we are familiar with and really grasping and absorbing it. Knowing intimately how the federal government kind of negotiates initiatives. This is not going to be an overnight task. This is a movement that is going to take a lot. It's a whole shift from the way that they're doing things to come to be actors in this space and to even understand it. And they're big on documentation. So one thing that has always stood out to me about the day that this would happen, and that day is today, is that the federal government is a slow-moving machine. They do not move fast at all in any kind of regard. So this space does, though. So something's going to have to change. If they want to be here, they want to be players, they want to actually participate in the space as we've laid it out, right? So as the communities across the blockchain have laid it out and already established it, they're going to have to make severe changes to the way that things get done. And, taking, 6 months to get something done, or years to get something done, is going to leave them drowning because this space moves fast. It's like a daily, there's almost like a daily rate of change here. So, there's a lot to think about, unpack, and kind of decouple with this thing. But I'm still grappling with it, is what I'll say. I'm not there yet. I need to dive all the way into these documentation. And then, it brings to light that they want to bring the agencies on, right? So bringing the agencies on means the federal proposal process. And I've talked about this before, what I would like to see. if they did come. And so they're here now, or they're saying they're going to be here now. They're putting the force behind it. So what you're going to start seeing is a churn in RFPs. So the request for proposal. So I'm just going to tell y'all business owners out there right now that if you have a business, it is imperative that you get on SAM.gov, you get listed, and that you are able to compete because you have the knowledge to be able to actually help and steer some of these different initiatives. If we want things to go the way that we want them, then we have to be part. We have to take part a little bit in making that happen, because us standing aside and letting you fall on your face in this instance, that is the whole entire country. So I'm not sure what we do. Do we say I don't want to take part and I'm just going to watch it burn, which, there's something to be said for that, or do you do what needs to be done and steer them the right way and allow them to fall on their face from there? I'm not sure.
That's the conundrum. Go ahead.
Say something. Yeah. First of all, I haven't really read the bill. The question is, does it have international reach? Something like the Patriot Act. Do you guys remember?
From my understanding, now this is a very limited, because as all of y'all said, we still need to read the entire bill and understand it thoroughly. No, it does not, from my understanding. However, they have this language where they want to make sure that they're able to compete in cryptocurrencies, right? So there's that competition aspect with, China that does come into play. I'm not sure how they're going to try to carry that out when, the bill is now, and you know what, I need to read the bill a little bit more. From the article that I'm reading, it's kind of a thing, right? Go ahead.
Let me because that's important, because if they, first of all, okay, there are two sides to this. On one hand, we're not necessarily happy because it's going to change a lot of what we're doing and what we enjoy and the freedoms we have, but also the risks we take. High risk, high reward, and we're okay to embrace that. Everyone makes that judgment themselves. Great. On the flip side, there have been a lot of projects that have gone out there and just have not known, right? So they've spent a ton of money on lawyers and everything, and it's so early. So they've had to build relationships with regulators. They've had to maybe get some assurances in terms of legal written letters, etc. XRP is one of them right now. They are currently, having a case with the SEC, and it looks like they did get some legal assurances that they weren't doing anything wrong, right? So, in a sense, it does give us a bit more clarity. Right now, I think Bitcoin is treated as property, right? It could be good to be treated as something else. If you look at the Howey's test, it's so broad. It is so broad, and everyone's trying to fit into the utility category, but it's so broad, it catches you, right? So if they're gonna keep it as broad as that, we're all at risk, and in the future, we could be getting involved in projects that could leave us open, right? So to some extent, I do think we do need some clarity. What I would hope for is that the thought leaders in this space are empowered to engage, right? To represent the community in a way that we co-create this future together. Because what I don't want to see is this whole clamp down and back to centralized and the fake CDBC. I'm sorry, the CDBC by definition is not decentralized. Everyone needs to understand that. That's the first thing you should take away. So if we're going for decentralized, great. What we're going to have to do is maybe onboard a lot of people. You asked the question about how do we kind of bridge that gap between the mass adoption and, maintaining that freedom. I think education is really, really important because, even with this, the decentralized movement, the crypto movement, the governments have been very slow to follow because they've kind of hoped it died off, right? So if enough people get educated about this, get on board with this, get educated about cybersecurity, how to stay safe, how to even assess good projects versus bad, you're always going to get unlucky sometimes, but at least if you do your due diligence to some extent, we're going to have less of these scare stories about rug pulls, because all that stuff is building a case against people coming in and regulating, right? The more of these scam stories we get, even now, and this is another thing I wanted to bring up, NFTs, right? NFTs are an amazing thing. They've enabled a lot of artists to monetize, to create value and sell direct to their customers, change their lives, right? Earn a lot of money. Some of them are creating utility. I think it's a positive thing. That being said, NFTs, as you know, in the art world, NFTs aren't just art collectibles, they're other things. But if we talk about the collectibles, within the collectibles, we do know that AML KYC is not as stringent when it comes to art pieces. So what a lot of people are doing, and then they're not, they're pretty smart. They're using free ports, NFTs, and they're laundering money, right? That has to be called out. So that is something that, hey, if people can be more, I just feel the money laundering is not great. It's not great for society. It's not, so there's certain, and this area is so big, besides the fact that it moves so fast. Where do you start? Right? Are you starting with like an UTO, a STO, a DICO, a DY? There's so many. So I feel what they're gonna do is, I think they're gonna go for certain projects, as they're doing with XRP. I think that there are gonna be some NFT projects that I feel are gonna come under some heat in a few months. I just feel it. It's almost like it's going that way. So I don't feel it's going to be an overnight thing, but I do feel that we, as people who are passionate and active in this space, should have a voice, should be able to be heard, and should be able to at least co-create something that we feel stays true to that dream of decentralization. That's what I really feel.
You guys, both of you guys, you ladies are 100% correct in this. Whenever new regulations do come on the scene, it has to go through several different processes, at least in the US, right? If it's something that impacts the general public, oftentimes the SEC will put out a call for the general public to review, to assess, to provide their feedback, et cetera, et cetera. I'm hoping the same happens here if and when a regulation does come down the pike. And I'm hoping that the community does take part, whether it's to destroy the regulation or at least to give them an insight as to why certain directions may not work here in this space that we're creating. Because honestly, what they're going to do is end up creating something that's not going to benefit us, that's going to be really hard for us to implement if we choose to implement it, right? So a lot of people need to, this is the time to tune in, to participate, to really be alert, because this is the future that's being created. And in order for us to have this future that we want, we got to tap in. We got to stay in tune. We have to be adults now, right? We went from kids, now we're adults, right? And we do have to participate in this. And when those calls are out there, I want them to be swamped with as many feedbacks as possible, so that they understand that this is not being created by a chosen few, right? This is being created by everybody. Similar to how majority of people across the globe decided to participate in the constitutional DAO, we need that momentum and more when it comes to regulations in this space. We can't just ignore it. We got to participate. And there will be, if they decide to enact a law, there will be that phase where they will be calling for people's feedback.
I just want to tap in really quickly. This was an executive order. So much like with the executive orders we've seen over the last couple of years, this is official and is a call to action from all the agencies from now on. So that's where we need to definitely tap in, is at the agency level now, as they're beginning to act on the executive order that's been issued.
Definitely. They mentioned the consumer protection, which is one of the agencies. Definitely the SEC is involved. Definitely the CFTC is going to be involved. So this may be the time for everyone to start putting out those letters. I know there's going to be several rooms on Clubhouse spearheaded by individuals who are already paving, pavement and already knocking on these senators' door. who probably are doing a lot of movements just to continue that effort. On April 4th, there is a BIPOC movement that's happening in DC that's spearheaded by Cleve Messidor. Naja mentioned it earlier this week on Clubhouse. If you were in Dayanara's room, she had it as her PFP. But basically, it's just giving us a voice in front of Congress. So there will be a march to Congress. And we will be touching on topics like this. And I would tell everyone to tap in if you can. We will post it on our Discord. I believe it's already on the Discord. But yeah, there is a march on the Capitol on April 4th that, it could not have come at a better time. I'm sure she did not assume that this was going to happen. But now more than ever, the community needs to tap in. The community needs to understand that they are the people. Remember, the Constitution says we the people, right? So we the people for the people, right? And by the people. And that's a space that we're trying to create. So the people needs to be more vocal than ever when it comes to regulations. This is an executive order, but it just means that now all the agencies have a call to arms. So now they have to try to scramble to try to create something. And that thing, really should be a difficult task for them, because how do you deal with the space that moves in dog's ears, right? Deal with the space that's unlike something else that we've ever seen. And how do you regulate it to the point where you're not stifling America's involvement in this global phenomenon? That's the part that I think that they're going to find it difficult, right? Because if you slow down America's progress or participation in this whole cryptocurrency blockchain ecosystem, the rest of the world is still going, right? The rest of the world does not have that regulation, right? And so how do you continue to advocate for innovation in this space when you're really creating rules and regulation to stifle? And then at the same time, we haven't talked about, communities that are benefiting off of this space, right? The Black community is benefiting off of crypto.
I did want to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We have a congressman in California that Naja is, she putting, her feet to the pavement, and she gonna work things out. I believe her 100% with that one. But we have a congressman who said that, he's gonna help the Black people save ourselves in simplest terms, right? As a Black person, I didn't request for you to save me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Wait for me to say that.
I did want to say, crypto has really helped a lot of countries where the value of money is really literally struggled. I'm Ghanaian originally, and I pay people in Ghana, my teams, and I had an Excel spreadsheet that was actively sort of downloading from Google Finance, and in a week I'm just looking at this currency is 6.57. I'm like, wow. So I think a lot of countries, I don't want to name too many, but Turkey as well, Nigeria as well, look, these guys are, and if you ask me, right, why are they flocking to it? So people really need to understand, despite the risks, why are people still adopting, right? So that is what we need to make extremely clear. I did ask about the whether it has global implication, because I know right now Malta's pretty open. I think Malta, they're inviting people to come. So I feel that it could be bad for the US, because if people had to leave to be able to still partake and build their businesses and all that, I think they will, right? So I think what would be better in terms of longevity, in terms of keeping innovation, because crypto is not going anywhere. Decentralization is not going anywhere. I feel that if we are going to, or at least the US is going to continue, they're going to have to definitely engage with the key players in this space. And I think that we as community leaders need to be really strong about that, for sure, especially women as well. It's not just people of color. I think a lot of women are coming more into this space, are interested. And I think that's great. That's a positive thing.
It is. It 100% is. Through this event that we're running, we're seeing that women internationally are joining the space, and they're finding value in this space. And it is, something that's allowing us to, one, uplift our voice, be more involved, find financial freedom, participate in different opportunities that are out here. And so for once, we're not at the receiving end, we're actually the creators, right, of a lot of what's going on in this space. And that's where that's really what people who are outside looking in need to step back and understand, right? You have a space that's allowing people who typically have barriers in front of them to participate in a way that those barriers are removed. And now they're uplifting each other, and there's opportunities being created in that action as well. What is it? There was an article last year that basically said that in the Black community is one of the top demographics that is involved in cryptocurrencies. We're finding value in this, right? You know, I have yet to hear us as a community say, come and save us. And it's kind of insulting too, right? To assume that a community full of grown, educated individuals needs saving. Like, when did I need saving? Like, I just want to tap into that for a second. Like, I feel insulted.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. Nobody needs to be saved. We actually just all need to be empowered to be given that information, and that's what I say. We also have a role. We can onboard a ton of people. We can educate them about this space. The more people who understand decentralized versus centralization, the more we can kind of secure our sense of what this future needs to look like. But the other thing I was going to say, what I love is the good luck, the feel good stories about Vitalik Buterin given how much to the Indian COVID relief, even this whole thing with Ukraine. So much money has been raised with crypto, and I feel that is slowly, because that is getting to the headlines. It's not sort of a marginalized newspaper. It is slowly getting people to realize, actually, maybe this thing is not just the scam or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I'm hoping that those feel good stories will really engage people. And I do feel, in fact, that NFTs have played a huge role in that. And I'm quite happy about that. Do you know what I mean? I think that I feel that there's a lot that is happening now, and people are doing great things. I think Binance also issued money to support people as well. And so for people who are reading the news, what is this crypto thing? I thought it was a scam. Well, actually, it's not. It's people with established businesses who are now donating to good causes to help you out and stuff like that. And maybe these are the feel-good stories that we need to get people engaged, interested enough to learn what is a wallet, how can I get involved, can I just put a bit aside and see what it feels like. So these are the stories that I hope will help people build that curiosity about financial inclusion, financial literacy. What is decentralization? What does it mean for me? If I look at Estonia, for example, I think that Estonia are very interesting because they have this sort of like e-governance government as a service thing that they put out, where you become a resident, etc. And it's all decentralized information. I don't know if it's based on blockchain, but everyone owns their own data, and that data is in the system once, but it's used by different agencies as and when they need it, and you give that access to them. That is smart. I'd rather that than, again, the centralized people who have all your data. And no, it is not the right solution for any of us. I just don't think that is right. We should have the choice where our data goes, who we sell it to, and for what. Because actually, for me, the scare stories are data that's manipulated, is put into AI algorithms, and people, for example, vulnerable people. Hey, I have a problem with gambling and stuff, and they know when to target you. I don't want a world like that. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. Our data is important. We have corporations out there that are literally making millions, billions, and trillions off of our data, right? And it's our data, right? And then we have companies out there that literally are sourcing our data, and then they don't care to put the right security measures in place. And so therefore, our data is spread all over the place. And then, Equifax and Experian and TransUnion, right? The credit bureaus that are out there that are taking these datas and creating pathways for them to make a business out of it, but not doing what they can on their end to secure and make sure that the data is accurate, right? Because that's not their business, right?
Right.
We gotta prove to them that the data is accurate, right? They don't care. They will put anything and everything together, but then they're not securing that information, and there's no rules and regulation that's actually forcing them to secure that information. But in situations like that, I should have control.
But
They should be paying me.
Yinka, here's the worst thing. Data breach. Okay. If you're lucky, they'll find the company because it's against GDPR. Great. Okay, so where does the money go? I've been hurt. My money, I didn't get any, right? Now for that, I could have suffered identity fraud. This is the stuff that really, people commit suicide over. It can ruin your life. And they say there's data protection customer, but a lot of people just don't see it. Who is benefiting at the end, right? So this is where, again, ownership is really important, because at least if I say, hey, you can use my data for this purpose, right? Not everything is not, there shouldn't be a blanket, hey, use everything. No. And this is another thing we need to understand as well, right? So again, it's not just education about Web3, it's also the education about your data. Why is it important, etc. I'm actually quite a very, very private person because I've seen too much in terms of the data, the manipulation, and the data usage to the detriment of those who that data should belong to, And I also feel that is why there's a backlash against Meta and, Mark Zuckerberg owning the metaverse. I'm a big proponent of the open metaverse, right? We should all be part of this, That's what I feel.
Yes, I'm loving this. Shirley, it is definitely good to talk to you today. It's like we're talking the same language. Data is extremely important, and we talk about this all the time. The things that they are able to do when you have data elements is extremely, it's extremely targeted towards you as an individual. We talk about data all the time. You know that there's things that are going on in Web 2.0 that you don't like you're being spammed with ads. We saw that in US elections. That was a problem. We've seen it on every website you go on these days. You're having to opt in to cookies and update your cookie settings and things like that. But as we head into the metaverse, and we're talking about the metaverse being experiential and the next iteration of the internet, where you are able to get up and walk around inside of these experiences instead of just looking at them and clicking on things. You're able to interact and be 3D and really get to that next level. Your data is going to be so important. Some of y'all have seen Ready Player One. Some of you have seen movies like Ghost in the Shell, and you've seen the way that these data elements, the future of what it could look like. So we're not there yet, but the metaverse is coming, and it's not one person who's going to own it. We're all going to own that, right? But what is it going to be? What do ads look like in the metaverse? Right now, you can go into experiences and you can see billboards up on high rises. You can see little towns that have been built out with ads on every single building. You have places like Infiniverse where they are literally allowing people to buy storefronts, and all the storefronts is the ability to actually advertise. It's advertisement space. So if you connect that with kind of what Shirley was talking about your data, when you are in a virtual headset or you are having an augmented reality experience, that's all data. Everything that you are doing is data. So when you have on a headset, that headset sits where? It sits right here on your brain, on your head, and it sits right here on your eyes. And so ocular tracking is a thing, right? That ocular tracking can be something that if I wanted to, right? Like let's just create a scenario for data. I am showing you an ad in front of your face, right? In the screen and inside of your VR headset. I'm showing you an ad. My eyes are going to react to that ad. The second that I notice the ad can be tracked. The length of time that I spend gazing at the ad can be tracked. The reaction of my pupils while I'm watching that ad can be tracked. All of that is data. You add on to that haptics, which is the ability to touch and sense things in the space. You add on to that things that Zuckerberg did put out in his presentation of his metaverse, and that is cameras that are located around your home to accurately lay out the space in front of you. That means that there's an always on camera watching you, watching your home, and that information is being soaked up and absorbed. That is data. This video stream is data. So all of those things are things that we are putting out into the universe. We're putting those out into the metaverse as it comes out. So we should be the ones who are operating and owning that data. So I like to put out a scenario, and that scenario is that in the future of my metaverse, if we win, if we get this right, I will be able to go out and actively hire a data analyst, my professional personal data analyst, to look at and review my data because I asked them to, because I gave them access to it, and have them use their intelligence and their expertise to identify all of the partners and affiliates that I should link up with that will do the best by me and my data. And then once I make those associations and affiliations based on that data, I will start recouping the rewards. All of that is things that are possible with the decentralized metaverse. And we talk about these things all the time. Owning your data, owning yourself, and your digital self-image are extremely important as we move forward. So yeah, Shirley, I'm with you. Thank you. I'm so glad to have had this conversation with you.
I love the thing you said about the analyst coming in and, hey, check out my data. I love that. You know what people don't even think of? It's like even the way you type is kind of an identifier of you. There is a password service that I saw and I was shocked. I was like, wow. So just the softness, the how it's insane. So I would love us, as women in this space, to educate people about the data. Everything you put out is even my voice, which is why personally, my bank, they kept trying to collect my voice. And I was like, no, take it off. And they didn't. And I said, take it off. And I threatened to because I'm tired of my data being collected, my fingerprint on my phone. I feel like there's nothing that's left for me anymore. It's just annoying. And if people understood that everything you do is data, they would really maybe understand the how far reaching this kind of stuff is. And again, as you say, Nicole, how important for us to be the authors of our own destiny in terms of how our data is used.
So true. Man, yeah. Data is currency, right? And we will soon see how much more valuable it is, right? There's a lot of people who are making a living off of collecting this data, and they're becoming billionaires, right? And when we start to wake up to that, hopefully it's not too late, right? But I think the fact that there's this movement going towards Web3 and recognizing that we can sell our data, we can control who has access to our data. Hopefully, right? Because I still say it's a hypothesis right now. We are able to fully realize that type of space, that type of ecosystem. I want to transition to Virginia's new law that's allowing banks to custodial your cryptocurrencies. Texas also had a law last year that did the same thing. Now Virginia has followed suit. In the article that I read, it basically said that one of the things that needs to happen is that you need to have a whole new private key, which the bank will control.
No.
We all know, and if you don't know, if you don't have the private key, it's not your money.
Not your money.
Not your money. It's what is it? The famous phrase, not your cheese, not your keys, not your keys, not your cheese. Yeah. So if you don't have your private key and the bank now has that private key, that essentially says the bank now controls your cryptocurrency. You gave up the right for you to control your cryptocurrency. So now banks can come in and say, well, we need to take out fees. we need to charge you for custodial because they're not doing this for free. Okay. We need to charge you to custodial your assets, which is what they do right now, right? With all the checking and savings accounts and all these things that they attach some kind of APR and yield and all these things to it, right? But they're making money. And guess what? This is another avenue for them to participate in the ability to stake, because now they don't have to stake their own money or purchase cryptocurrencies. They can stake your cryptocurrencies, make money off of that,
Ooh.
and still charge you, right? I mean, that's what they do right now, right? They basically loan your money that you put in the bank. They collect the interest rate and the yields, right? And then they charge you to do that. So now cryptocurrencies, they're going to be able to do that as well. And at the same time, if they want to, what did we see in Canada? What is it? Didn't the government like restrict access to people's crypto or something like that? Because I think they probably already have some version or form. I don't know. They did something. They restrict access to certain people to their assets, right? With the bank now having control, guess what? If there was regulations that basically says that these particular groups of people cannot have access, the banks have to abide by that. So now they're going to restrict access to cryptocurrencies that you own if you decide to custodial your asset with the bank. So these are the things that people need to start thinking about, right? And honestly, we're trying to move away from that. Like if you know the importance of this space, why this space is even created, why even Bitcoin, right? That would be the last thing you would run to, right? But then we also know that there are a good number of people, a good percentage of people in the space who may see that and see it as something that's viable for them, because this whole space is too confusing. They don't really want that responsibility. They might lose it. And they assume that, because the bank is now custodial, in charge of the custody of it, that, it may come with FDIC insured and all these things. Well, guess what? That's not really part of FDIC insured. So they're going to have to create a whole new insurance to deal with, unless insurance companies want to take on that risk as part of the FDIC insured. It's going to have to be a whole new rewrite. So it's not as them custodial and everything is okay. Like you really need to do your own research. And that's where that really comes in. Ask the questions. Go to the
yeah. Let's look at this, y'all. Okay, so I'm in Virginia. This hits me directly. Okay, so you're right around the corner, right? So you're probably next.
Don't say that.
But let's look at kind of what this says and how things operate. So right now, whether you know it or not, when you have money in a bank, that bank owns your money, and that bank is doing things with your money behind the scenes. And so that was one of the reasons why this space was for us, right? So it was somewhere where we could negotiate on our own behalf. We have highs and lows in crypto, and you know that, right? So I am interested to see what that plan looks like, because as you said, and as you pointed out, FDIC insurance does not cover crypto. So for one part of this, the ramp up phase, right? Like there will be, I need to go now and go look at what happened in Texas, but I would imagine that there's a stream of businesses that are about to pop up. And those are all supporting banking institutions that are now supporting cryptocurrency, right? That are custodial parents of crypto. And so that will ramp up a few jobs. It will put people in place. But what happens when the dip happens? Because we buy during the dip, right? So what does that look like for a bank to do that? I feel like this whole thing is interesting. I have not, again, this just happened today, so these are raw emotions. I haven't really processed it. But there will be those investors out there who stayed away because their bank of choice, their guiding force of choice, was not operating in the space. So now there are going to be people who are waking up and saying, oh, I heard about this on Robinhood, or I saw it during the Super Bowl, and now my Bank of America is doing it. What do we do? How do we get involved? I have crypto. And so now it's going to wake up this whole institutionalized version of players on the blockchain. And they're all going to have crypto potentially. So what do? How do our communities respond? Where does this education go? And how do we stress the importance of decentralization? That's the task for us.
You know what? You mentioned something. Where's the education, right? Where does the education go? So now I'm curious, will banks be educating people about cryptocurrencies? Like, will they really give the real definition and education about Bitcoin? Will they tell their customers to go and read the white paper? Because Bitcoin is clear as day, right? That this is like the right? Financial
You'll
institution.
get a pamphlet, Yinka, that tells you everything you need to know within a few little bullet points that looks good in like short form.
Imagine their faces when they get to the point where it's supposed to be decentralized. Oops.
Yes. How do you explain that? Like,
Right?
what's this thing right here?
For me personally, I just feel anyone who really is a kind of baby of this movement, like us, we're still relatively early. I would just never do that, because Nicole mentioned that when you deposit it, it's effectively their money. I think as a Dodd-Frank Act, basically banks can now do bail-ins, and those bail-ins have been enacted. It's a real thing, people. If a bank is failing, they have the right to confiscate your money and turn it into shares. So you now get to be the proud owner of a failing bank. Why would you want to do that? And that's got nothing to do with crypto. It's just got everything to do with assets in general, be it fiat, be it like, it's insanity, right? So why anyone would do that? I think this would work for people who are coming to it fresh, who don't really get it. They haven't read the white paper. Again, back to that education bit where, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe this is the risk. And I don't know how that's going to pan out for the majority of people, because I feel in the West, like, we're quite lucky. So there's so few bad stories that people don't really feel it much. There are one or two, sorry, let me come to this, right? There are one or two people who felt it bad. From a regulatory standpoint, I don't know if you guys are familiar, and I don't know if you guys do it in the US, but it's called an unknown wealth order. They will just shut down your bank. They will clear all the records, and they have no need to tell you why it was shut down. It's just an UWO. Do you guys have that in the US?
I have to think about that.
I'd be very surprised if you didn't. That's part of the whole, hey, we don't know where this money came from, it's dodgy. And so many people have had it.
Vincent, yeah.
Yeah, because actually we've been talking about SEC getting involved. I think also FATF might get involved, financial task force. So I just feel, why would you want to do that? Me personally, I think in the UK we have a limit after which I think the bank has to guarantee a certain amount. I think it's the FSC insurance scheme that I think you guys have the equivalent of that. After that, they can do whatever they want, really, and there's nothing you can do, especially if your records are gone. What do you do, right? And by definition, they're not allowed to tell you why, and that ties into something called passing off. They're not allowed to tell you why, right? It's called passing off. Like, if they have a suspicious activity report or something, they're not allowed to tell you. Now, me working in banking, I also know that a lot of the systems that they use to screen are not always accurate, so people do make mistakes. And these mistakes do happen. So me personally, leaving my private key with a bank, oh my gosh, for real? No, please, people, think very carefully about this, because it kind of defeats the objective.
It does. And even with to go back to how would they educate? Because one thing they have to do is provide resources to educate their customers about the products that they're pushing to them, right? So if you're telling me that, oh, I can now custodial my cryptocurrency, well, what are cryptocurrencies? What does that mean? Like, you need to answer that question. And if you don't do it justice, then can you be liable to false information?
No, what they'll be liable to is mis-selling. So we've seen that as well. They
Mhm.
used a lot of terms that people didn't understand, but that took years to resolve. A lot of people waited a lot of money, a lot of time for those schemes to come into place. Meanwhile, there's all the suffering that happens in between. So yes, they can probably get done for mis-selling.
Nah, ooh, that's deep. All right, so we do have some people on stage on Clubhouse, and I do want to create spaces for them to tap in, join in the conversation. We just finished talking about the executive order that Biden just recently signed, and then we were broaching the subject about custodial accounts with banks for your cryptocurrencies, because Virginia did a few days ago make that announcement. And now people are talking about it, I guess, in light of the whole executive order. So yeah, just like Texas, you can now custodial your crypto with your bank. For those of you on stage on Clubhouse, feel free to unmute yourself and let's go ahead and have this discussion. You are, just to full disclosure, we are streaming. We're on StreamYard. We are streaming to several different platforms, including Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So just to let you know, in full disclosure.
Yep. So you being on stage and participating means that you agree to being recorded in your full voice and audio quality. So please tap in if you have something to contribute. I see that we have Natasha on stage, Queen Earth, Michael, and Damien. Welcome to the space.
Hello.
Let's go with Queen, and then I saw you on mic also, Michael.
I'm interested in who's going to teach the people who are going to teach who's teaching the banks, like who's onboarding the banks, and where that's coming from. Like, who's giving them the information for them to disseminate it and ask their customers or their clients to join the crypto world when they fought so hard against it? How are they going to sell that? Yeah.
I could touch on that quite a bit, actually. I'll mention that it's not the banks, it's the central banks that did not want crypto. Private banks are okay with crypto because it doesn't really affect them, but it's the central banks that don't want crypto. And I wanted, the first point I wanted to bring up was the difference between custodial and non-custodial. Does anybody know that difference?
Yeah, custodial is sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Yinka, because we talk about this all the time in this room, especially in this room. You're in a Black Women Blockchain Council, where we educate daily on crypto, NFTs, all things blockchain, and the metaverse. But please go ahead.
Yeah, so custodial is basically you have the ownership rights of controlling that particular assets, right? Non-custodial is really when you give up that right of control. So that means you're either placing it under somebody else's control, and then they are that third party is basically managing how that asset is being allocated, et cetera, or how they can control or transact with that particular asset. In a non-custodial, you have the full right to dictate how that assets can be controlled or can be kept.
So I'd like to expand on that a little bit further,
Okay.
Because they in custodial and non-custodial, the person that is the owner of the wallet always has the right to change. But the difference is, in a custodial, so does the people that are holding your funds. So like a good example of that would be Well, I hate using Robinhood, but that's just the best example of it, where you're not purchasing your crypto. You're actually sorry, I'm just hearing myself.
Sorry.
Quite a bit in the background.
Yeah, sorry.
So distracting. And so when you have your funds in a custodial wallet, the people that are holding your funds in that custodial wallet actually have the same rights that you do to that crypto, so they can do whatever they want with that crypto. So that's where that phrase comes from, where not your keys, not your coins, because it's not just strictly your coins, it's yours and that company's coins as well, and they can do with it the same with it as much as you could. So I don't really see that. That being said, I don't really see the central banks adding a centralized crypto wallet as some sort of huge benefit to anybody, really, other than the banks using some sort of marketing tactic of them hearing so much about crypto, and it's like, hey, that has something to do with money, and you have to spend money to get crypto, so why don't you just spend that money with me, and then I will give you what you think crypto is. So I don't think that that's any kind of benefit for anyone except for the banks, and I'll rest my case there.
No, you're right. You know, they want to be able to participate in this space. And the best way for them to participate is to basically say, hey, you know, these people cannot take care or cannot live up to the expectation of them maintaining their assets, right? So here we are, this is what we do, so therefore let us do it. And I think that's the way that they're getting a lot of these regulations passed, because a lot of these people aren't having a lot of pushbacks, right? And we've seen on several instances where people have come onto the spaces where we're providing education about the space, about blockchain, about cryptocurrencies, and they want banks to have that control. They simply have asked, this, and have stated that this is too complicated. I don't have time for this. I need like something really simple. I need a breakdown, or I need my bank to. I need someone else to take care of all this for me, right? And so the bank is stepping up and saying, "This is what we do. This is what our nature is, right?" And so we should be able to fulfill that gap. And I'm not sure, how do you tap into people like that though, who feel that they need to have a third party manage their assets for them?
Now for me, when I think about that, when I think about the reason most people like centralization, and it's exactly for what you stated, it's for the ease of use and convenience, and everybody thinks that just ease of, like, making something easy and making it convenient comes at no cost, but it actually comes at a really hefty cost that's just invisible to most people, and that's where the power of decentralization comes into play. Yes, you are in control and thus responsible for your own funds, but you get all the benefits that come with that, and you're away from all the negatives that come with it as well, and so you kind of need to make a pros cons list, essentially, and figure out what's right for you. And I know for some people, getting into those custodial wallets, because they just don't, or like huge air quotes here, have the time to focus on that. It's easier for them, but I think I say we so vaguely. I think as a crypto community, what needs to happen is that the technology just needs to envelop a little bit more, and it is developing a lot more. And so it's going to take some people like me and apps like like Clubhouse and other programs like that where people can reach that free source of information that will ease it up for them. That will kind of ease more people into the decentralization, because I actually don't think it's overly complicated. I don't think it's above and beyond most people. I'm not. I think I'm maybe slightly above average intellect, just because I've found Clubhouse, and I think that everybody on Clubhouse is on the same page with that. But I'm pretty sure I'm like right on par with average. It's not that tough. You just need to really put some time into it. And so I think the thing that it deserves a little bit more attention is how do we get those people to understand that the ease of use and the accessibility and all of that comes at a greater cost than they're willing to pay. And that's, in my opinion, the harder part.
Yeah, I agree. It is. But, people are so accustomed to things being easy that they look to that ease of use everywhere, right? I mean, we know in this day and age, people don't take the time to read a newspaper anymore. They want instant information, right? And so I'm not sure if we were groomed to be here, but this is where we are. And people don't want to have to go back to fully understanding or being educated before they jump in. Like, honestly, what's being marketed to them is you can make them a lot of money in this space, right? It's not that, you need to take your time and fully understand, but once you understand, it all becomes clear to you. No, it's, if you had purchased this particular NFT, you could have made $1 million. And, this influencer is jumping into this particular cryptocurrency and it's going crazy and all these things. Like the flashes, the buzz is being thrown to people, and people are latching on to that and jumping in, right? And that's what they want, that instant gratification. They don't want to oftentimes take the time. And those that do, they tend to end up valuing the importance of this space. And that's why, we're having this month-long event, and we're hoping to give just a little bit of insight to the general public and let them see that this space is more than just a flash, right? It's more than just the influencer on one side or the NFT on this other side. It's an actual ecosystem that's being built. And this ecosystem, to some degree, it may be complicated to those that are outside looking in. But once you jump in, all that, what we're doing becomes something that's second nature to you, because then you start to understand, oh, that's what they mean. Oh, this is what they're doing. And oh, it's more than a JPEG, right? Because to outsiders, it's like, what the hell? Like, this whole space is crazy, right? Did I just cuss? I'm sorry. This whole space is crazy. This whole space is crazy. But then at the same time, like, I can understand that, because it's moving a mile a minute and it's a lot of stuff. And we're combating that with the negative narrative that's out there as well. But however, once you fully submerge yourself in this space, you start to realize, oh, it's not crazy people. Like, they're actually know what the hell they did it again. They know what they're doing, right? And and it starts to lift that veil. And then when you're encouraged to be educated, like, this is the first space, right, that really encourages people not to just jump in because somebody says so. Like, we clearly say, do your own research. I know people get frustrated with that word, but it's so true that eventually those that get frustrated with the word, when they come on board, once they start to understand and do their own research, they start to repeat the same thing. Do your own research, because it makes so much sense. Once you start to, dive deep into this, read the papers, and, then it's not, and mind you, some of these papers are way over most of our heads, but you can get to the gist of what these papers mean, right? And the gist is decentralization. The gist is self-sovereignty. The gist is, you being able to control your data, and data can be everything. Data is all the information that you leave behind, along with your assets. along with your assets, right? And the ability to communicate with people all over the globe without restrictions, right? We currently are going through a lot of stuff right now in this world, right? And all of it stems from power, right? Somebody wants to maintain power, right? And we are detaching ourselves from that type of world and saying nobody needs to have power. Everybody has power, right? There's significance in that, right? Because the world that I envision is the world that a war will be unnecessary, where everyone gets to participate, everyone is adding value, everyone is reaping benefits off of this space, and we're respectively treating each other, as part of this ecosystem that we're building, right? And that might be utopia, but in reality, I think we can build that. Go ahead, Shirley.
Yeah, one thing that stands out to me.
Shirley is on.
One thing that stands out to me when it comes to
hold on, Shirley. Nicole is ladies, which one?
Shirley's talking on Clubhouse. I can't hear her. Shirley, talk on the stream.
Yeah, so they talk about customer. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Oh my gosh! Right, customer protections, etc., which is great, but who protects us when they get things wrong and inflation is as high as it is because we trusted them, right? Where's the customer protection there? The other thing is, and this is something that we're not guilty of it ourselves, right? The use of terminology that can be exclusionary to people who aren't necessarily native to the environment, such as an NFT. I mean, for goodness sakes, could we, what is an it's nothing but like a digitized, well, it doesn't have to be an asset, but a token that may be of value to someone and, is restricted or somehow scarce, right? So a lot of people struggle, what is this? What is that? The banking world is known for this kind of thing. And I don't really feel they're going to educate. They just don't have a track record of educating people. That's why we've had a lot of problems with the banking institutions. I'm not against banks. I'm sure they serve a good purpose for a lot of people who just don't want to have that responsibility of managing their money. But for people who are aware of what money is and how it's created, even the whole mortgage system, right? The money that they're lending you, it doesn't even belong to them. It just makes no sense whatsoever. So I feel that, yeah, I just don't understand why people kind of rely on this banking institutions as if they never get things wrong. I mean, some of the banks I've worked with and why we've been there actually is to try and fix them, because there was poor oversight, poor governance. They did, business with money launderers. They get caught out as well. So I just feel people seem to have a very short memory. And I feel that, like I said, there are people who have been really hit. I mentioned this sort of unknown wealth orders, and those are the types of people who will probably be very reticent about trusting a bank, especially with their Bitcoin and even with their future finances, because it's not like it's a I mean, there are risks associated with banks as well. They control how much money you can transfer in a day. That is to do with money laundering and stuff like that. And they can just shut you down your account and they can stop things. It's a personal story. When this unknown wealth order came in, I got a call from someone and he was like asking me really personalized questions about my business account. And he's like, oh, I'm looking at your private account. And I'm like, how dare you? They're completely separate. They've got control of everything and they start asking questions. And if you say the wrong thing, they can seize those funds. They have the right to do that. So I just don't think most people think about that because it's just never happened to them. But I think that it's okay to put your money in or whatever with that, as long as you know the risks and as long as you plan for those risks. Because when it does go wrong, it's wrong. I'd rather I'm holding my own stuff when it does go wrong. At least I have some control of what I did. It's my choice to do that. That's just how I feel. And that's why I play in this field as well. This is why I play in this arena. And I also feel you should always have a backup plan, because things can go wrong also with crypto, and you should have a backup plan for sure.
Yeah, one thing that stands out to me is that those of us who are educating in this space.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on. Go ahead.
Those of us who are educating in this space and, you know, trying to bring people on board to the idea and the concept of decentralization, one thing we always say is there's no customer support. Nobody's going to be there to help you. And so now we got to come up with new lines, because the banks are definitely going to have their own form of technical support. But that brings up an idea and a potential risk, right? So you have this cryptocurrency that's out here, and, you know, some of us know how to go out to the blockchain explorers and actually kind of navigate and negotiate through the different transactions and see, you know, what are people doing, who's done what, where did this money come from, where did it go to, and you know, that's kind of advanced. But when someone has a question with the bank, what are they going to do? Are they educating? You know, this again goes back to how are they executing this? Where does their involvement with this custodial funds, where does it end? Is it just, you know, now the bank is now going to be an exchange? That brings up some issues. And, you know, where does it really go? Is this creating new jobs for a whole line of now cryptocurrency literate tellers? What does that actually look like? I don't know. Like I said, I need to dive into what Texas is doing, because I didn't know they were doing it. But now it's hitting home because it's right here in Virginia. So yeah, definitely want to tap into that a little bit more. And you know, we're going to be talking about it in Blackverse. So thank you guys for being here. We have some folks who've joined us on stage. So first of all, I want to acknowledge Shirley. Shirley is here on the stream with us live. She's a part of IWB, and she is going to be a speaker. We also have Tam, who is one of the moderators for IWB. So what's up, Tam? How are you today? We were just talking about everything that's going on in our world. Queen Earth is here as well, and she's going to be speaking at IWB. IWB is the International Women of Blockchain Conference that is happening all throughout the month of March. So every single day, you've missed some. So you got some catching up to do. We're going to put the link up at the top here in just a second. But please do know that this room here on Clubhouse is being recorded. So we are recording, and it is streaming live. So if you rather would watch, you want to see what Yinka looks like, you want to see what I look like, you want to see what Shirley's little picture looks like, y'all can join us. We are live on LinkedIn. We're live on the BWBC YouTube. We're also live on the Blackverse YouTube, and we are also live on Twitter. So look at that. We got 5 little different methodologies here. We are fully decentralized with this stream today, and we're doing the thing. So Natasha is here. She's also a part of the committee for IWB. Michael has joined us on stage, and now we're going to open the door to both Damien and Frederick to tap into this conversation. So thank you, fellas, for being here, and thank you for your support during Women's History Month. How are you?
Another day at the office. I'm glad that you all are holding this space and respect the peace and joy, and thank you for creating a space to talk about digital currencies. I'm a nerd who I built my first computer when I was 15.
Yes.
40.
Can we just celebrate that? I'm a nerd. Yes.
When did you build it? When did you build it?
Yes.
I have a lot of social skills. I do commercials. Like, I am clearly a charismatic camera holding individual. So, but I'm a geek because I've been dealing with motherboards since I was 15. Like I say, I'm 40. So I know the zeros.
Hey.
Yes.
Okay, but no, but real talk. Holding the space to speak about digital currency, speak about Black people in digital currencies, and why it's important to continue to expand the education about engagement around the things. It's widely important, and I'm always excited to share space with folk who know a bunch, but also want to share what they know, but also want to help other people learn and grow. And I'm a dude who I've done about maybe 30, 40 commercials in my in the past 10 years. I've sold you all products before. I've for things like McDonald's and Lowe's and Captain Crunch and Chex Mix, stuff like that. And as I'm making videos, I found my way making videos about my life with multiple sclerosis because I was diagnosed about 6 years ago, and I've sort of turned that into a YouTube channel with 5,000 subscribers. And because of that sort of video making digital mind, I found my way to the Nas Academy Cryptocurrency Fellowship. Like the people who bought the $69 million NFT partnered with Nas Academy on Facebook, Nas Daily on Facebook, to create crypto creators. So I created 18 videos per month about NFTs and cryptocurrencies for 3 months to earn 3 Ethereum and to really help people understand what the whole space is about and add a bunch of humor and flair and knowledge to people who are curious about it. So as a Black man who's raised by his mom and his grandma and gravitates to the space that Black women hold, the fact that y'all are speaking about digital currencies, I'm just here soaking it all up and seeing what game I can put in my game and seeing what value I can add to the space that you are holding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Damien. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. It's something that we've been doing for a minute. We have this room on Clubhouse called Black Women in Blockchain. The whole purpose of this room is to educate the community really about this technology and the different type of use cases. So except for March, all throughout the year, we have been hosting a room on Thursdays and Fridays. Our room on Thursday is called What the Hell is Blockchain? So we go into a deep dive about the technology there. And then we have a room on Friday, which is a follow-up room to answer questions, additional questions that people may have after listening to our room. And maybe there have been some breaking news like we're doing right now. This actual live stream really is a piggyback off of an event that we're hosting throughout the entire month of March. When I say throughout the entire month of March, I really mean that because it's every day of the week. For 31 days, we are live streaming and showcasing international women of blockchain who are in this space, who are creating, who are building, and who are educating their communities all over the globe about this technology, about the different type of use cases. And we're doing it to celebrate women in the space as well and to show representation so that way, when this event is done and you guys go to conferences that are blockchain, crypto, DeFi, whatever type of conferences, and you don't see representation, you can say, hold up. Did you not just see that whole month-long event? That's what we want y'all to do. But I really appreciate you tapping in. Thank you very much for the acknowledgement. Really appreciate that. And we want you to continue to come on board and join us. And also, join the event as well. It's at womenofblockchain.org. You can go ahead and purchase your ticket. It's just $25. It gives you access to our Discord. It gives you access to the actual live stream of the event. We're doing this one a little bit different. This is the AMA Ask Us Anything portion, but the actual stream, you are able to gain access to the actual stream as it's going every day of the week from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to noon Eastern Standard Time. You'll be able to tap into the speakers, etc. One thing that we're currently doing right now is that, we are sponsored. We're sponsored by Block, which is the parent company of Square, Cash App, and Tidal, as well as other corporations. And Hero. Hero is a blockchain, a stack company. And they're building off of that platform. And we actually just had a conversation with them. And they will be more active in our Discord. And actually, if you go into the Discord, they are now. They just posted available jobs that they have. So I want y'all to tap in because there's opportunities in this space. We just had a resume building platform that came out to just give us some tips, right? I know Tam was on stage. She was actually moderating that portion. And her and I, we had our pencils out. We were writing all kinds of information because a lot of people want to tap into the Web3, right? And they want to have a position in Web3. And there's opportunities that are out there. And we were able to gain valuable information from Lacey, who came to join us from Meta Intra. And that was fantastic. And, there's so much more that we have planned for you all. We're going to talk about cybersecurity because we all heard and hear oftentimes about how, this place gets hacked, right? And how, millions of dollars are stolen from different platforms. And they're not just, 100,000. They're like really big bucks that are stolen from these platforms. But it's important to know that when you're walking through this space, you're essentially acting as a bank, right? So I guess that's probably the reasons why the bank wants to take over that control, right? But you're acting as a bank, and in order for you to be able to secure your assets, you need to have the right type of security hygiene. So we're going to have an individual who's a cybersecurity professional come in and talk about how to navigate through this space securely. We're going to have plenty of that, right? Because that's a topic of discussion that a lot of people need to start focusing on. And there's so much more in this event. Each day is carved out specifically for certain topics within the space, and all of you will find value in that. So thank you, Damien. Nicole, who else? You said Frederick was next?
Oh, wow. So I'm just honored that you all even brought me up. I honestly was just coming in to listen in and to provide support to you ladies.
Okay, it's an honor. Hello.
For sure, and I really mean that. Your sex is immaterial to me. There have been a few times where people have asked me to do things, and I thought that someone was better suited for the job, and it happened to be a female. So I'm like, hey, let me call this person up or contact this person and hook them up. You know what I mean? I will say this. This space has come so far in terms of gender equality. And I'll give you an example. The first crypto conference I went to, I believe it was about 11 years ago. And in that conference, I think there were 3, maybe 4 people of color, 6 if you include Asian folks, and maybe 2 women, and both of them were Caucasian. Fast forward 5 years, the numbers weren't looking quite as well. And then, I found Clubhouse, and then boom, it's like, holy cow, man, it's a whole bunch of people out here that are doing it that look just like me. Now, in my defense, I was in the military, so I would come to conferences and schedule my leave from the war so that I can get into this space. But I'll tell you, it brings me unbelievable joy and satisfaction to see you ladies up there moving and shaking and making a difference and educating people in the space so that they might become self-sovereign and at a minimum improve their financial futures and the futures and quality of life of their families. I'll rest.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Really appreciate it. I truly am happy, and I too have seen the space change a lot, right, within the last 4 years, period. And there's more of us, and I think there's something to be said about an audio platform that allowed us to lend our voices to this movement and let people know that there's a lot more various community, particularly the Black community, from the entire African diaspora, right, who are tapped in, who are getting involved, who know about this and are building and are creating. So that's a testimony for this space alone, right? Because not in my lifetime have I seen a space like this before that everyone can jump into and feel like there's representation, right? It may not be, you know, to the percentage that we're looking for, but we can definitely find someone that looks like us in this space. So thank you very much, Frederick.
Yinka, I just wanted to add,
Yes.
even if we're 100 people, if we just taught one person, that's an immediate, like, you know, 200. So that is the impact of the work that we do. That's the impact of these conversations we're having. So why not seek to educate the people around you, let them in, you know?
It's so true. So true. So Queen Earth, are you there?
Making taco dip, but I am here.
Thank you, Queen Earth. So we're gonna have Queen Earth pretty soon. Is that tomorrow?
It's tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I don't tell everybody this. I'll say it now. I'm nervous always before I speak, and so I have to do like restful work. And he said it's fireside chat that helped me chill out. I said, you know what? I'm gonna get my NFT gallery right and let people walk through while I tell them stories.
Ooh.
I'm so excited. This is awesome. Like, I wanted to come through before I speak just to see the vibe. You got the room packed. You're over on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. So yeah, dropping gems all day.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I want to tap in. So, Queen, I'm doing Futuristic Fridays in the metaverse. So, every Friday, you guys can hang out with me and we'll go discover the metaverse together. But last Friday, you're not alone. I was nervous too. It is one thing to, you know, I'm comfortable when I'm talking and like I'm hanging out with my people. It's cool. But to be on camera, it felt different. You know, had to actually prepare an actual presentation, which, you know, we're used to just talking through things. So it's a little different. But I was nervous too. You are not alone. So don't be, and you'll be all right. So can't wait till tomorrow.
I twisted my locks yesterday because I knew I was going to be on camera, so I'm picky fresh. But yes, thank you for the solidarity.
Love it, Queen. Love it, love it, love it. I'm looking forward because you and I, we connected already, but I'm looking forward to having you on stage and letting us get to know Queen on a whole different level because we get snippets of who you are on Clubhouse, right? And some of us have the privilege of knowing you outside of Clubhouse as well. So it's now time for us to, I guess, reintroduce Queen to the general public, and that's going to be fun because you're coming with a whole host of talent that a lot of us aren't aware of, and you have a solid background that I think really, I know is really important to the space and what you're doing as well. And I love it. I love it. I'm excited. I can't wait. Fireside chat. Yes, tap in, get to know Queen, get to know the projects that she's working on. As she said, she's going to take y'all through the metaverse experience and get y'all, you know, introduced to her gallery so you guys can walk through that and have an experience right there. So this is fantastic. Thank you very much, Queen. Really appreciate it. All right. I want to
say thank you to you, Yinka, too. Like, I'm an artist and been an artist for as long as I can remember. And I'm only really happy when I'm making art and creating, making music. And I feel like the pandemic forced us all inside, most of us, if we were fortunate. And I just spent the time creating. So I think it was Damien who said this Clubhouse space where you can meet other nerdy folks who are like into going down the rabbit hole and really just deep diving. And Michael said something earlier too that I wanted to jump off of, and it's like, we have the right to fail, just like we have the right to succeed, right? Mm-hmm. We're all walking around with owning our information and owning, you know, who we share it with or not. And we all want to, like, you know, be knowledgeable, but we can also fail. And I feel like that's a really hard part of Web3 because do we have to learn to wear every single hat? And or do we trust someone to help us with that? Like staking, you know. Do I really want to learn the ins and outs of staking? Yes, I should. I'm putting my money in there. But what if somebody has a product or a service that emerges in this space where people don't want to wear all of the hats, but maybe like most of them, to get some help putting on the other hats? I'm interested in those services and products because can we do it all? Sure we can. But I think that those things, that's what technology is for, perhaps to provide ease but it doesn't mean it has to be ignorance that comes along with that.
Hmm.
So I just want to tap in about the conversation earlier and the knowledge and all these tools. But that's it. My name is Queen Earth, and I'm making topic Diff with my wife.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Thank you very much, Queen. Really appreciate that. And that's actually a interesting, right, question. And it goes back to a debate that Nicole and I, we have all kinds of discussions, right? She's smiling right now. We have all kinds of discussions. And one of our, I think, heated discussion yesterday was what's the role of centralized entities in helping create decentralized spaces, right? Or do they even have a role, right? And I have to say that I'm on the side of no, not really. But I can also understand that, you know, we're in order for us to build a decentralized, we do need to be centralized at some point, right? So I understand that. But I'm envisioning a space where we actually have, and we're realizing this hypothesis of ours, and we're actually living and breathing it. Can centralized entities still come in? And if they can, what does that look like, I guess, is the question. So yeah, so that's a topic to think about, right? As I'm asking that topic, I'm thinking, well, in order to answer that topic, we actually have to know what and experience the decentralized, right? So what is decentralization? And I think that's a question. Let's go around the room, right? Starting with the ladies on the stream. What does decentralization mean to you? Like, what is it? Nicole.
Okay. So to me, decentralization hits various points, right? So there's the technology. The technology is decentralized. So we're utilizing the decentralized blockchain. So that technology storage protocol is decentralized. But there's something else that is also decentralized, and that is yourself. So the storage of that data is important. We talked about that earlier. But the storage of all things is also there are levels, right? So there are levels to, you know, kind of, we say that like there's something I can't say because we're live, but there's levels to this stuff. And so my goal is to be completely decentralized by the end of the year. I will be able to do that up to a point, right? Like to the point where I can't because there's not some system or process that I can use. Well, see, even saying that, there's not a thing in place that I can use to replace the centralized thing that exists right now. But it's going to be a journey and it's going to be discovery. I want to decentralize everything. And that means to either be utilizing an application on the blockchain. I want to, that's the decentralized blockchain. So when I say that, I'm going to just say that from here on out. Decentralized blockchain. It means to be operating and transacting with folks who are also on the decentralized blockchain. The things that I do, I want them to be on the decentralized blockchain. Like I run a business, right? So as a part of that business, you have contracts and you're negotiating contracts. And you know, I am a former partner of DocuSign, or employee of a partner of DocuSign. And so when I think about the contracting process, there's a document, right? And in that document, you get an e-signature right now. I was a part of making one of the world's largest banks utilize that e-signature process with DocuSign. So when I think about my own contracts, I think about, I want them stored on the blockchain. That's a no-brainer. But I also want to be able to use an application that allows me to do the e-signature process on the blockchain also. So it's allowing you to not only sign with your wallet for the transaction, but to also sign your name with your wallet as a part of that transaction. So that's what we call a DApp, or a decentralized application. So there's a lot of these little things that, like, I want to break it, right? Like I want us to sit down and get in these little groups where we're talking about the things that we do on a daily basis. What does it look like to pay your rent in a decentralized way? What does it look like to, you know, to buy groceries from a decentralized or through a decentralized network or protocol or something. How can we get there? And in doing that, we're going to identify places where people can grow, right? Because these things don't exist. We're new, right? It's still fresh. We're pioneering this space and plotting it out. And so in doing that, we will find different pockets where people can go and develop and become even better, right? So maybe you're the one who goes off and builds Instacart for the blockchain. Something like that. Like that's where I go when I think about decentralization. Like I take it to a whole nother level. But it starts with understanding cryptocurrency, the blockchain, and your wallet, and why you want to be here. Because, we always talk about that whenever you're doing a new initiative or you have something that you're working on, you got to remember your why. So define that why for you. Your why is my why are not going to be the same thing. So if you're here because, hey, Bitcoin sounded cool and you earned some money, okay, cool. But what's going to keep you here at the end of the day? That may be Bitcoin. It may not be. It may be Ethereum. It may not be. It may be the fact that you can transact your data. There are blogs that are decentralized and you can earn money writing for these blogs. We learned about Learn to Earn today. Those are cool. Like those are ways that you can do the junk you do anyway, but actually earn crypto for it. Play to earn, like that's a thing, and we know that's a thing, and it's going to become a bigger thing because we're already doing it, and it just needs to come on, roll over to the space. Mass adoption to me is the point in time when we sit down and have that conversation, and I can't think of anything that isn't already out here, but we are far from that place. So that's what decentralization looks like to me. I can't say exactly what decentralization is because I can't achieve it right now. Everything that we do is still centralized in some way. DAOs are still centralized, no matter how decentralized we want them to be. You are establishing an LLC, at least in the US, you're establishing an LLC inside of the centralized government, the state government, wherever you're setting that up, which is Wyoming. So we got work to do in 2022. This is Nicole. My voice is resting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Shirley, what about you? Are you still awake? I think she may have fallen asleep. All right. Well, she is in the UK, and it's like, what, 6 hours away? So it's like 11, maybe. Yeah, something like that. So she's excused. All right. So with that, I guess I'll go, right? For me, I agree with Nicole that, we can't really say what it is, but what it means to me, right, is similar to what she said, right? It's the ability to control and own our own data, right? The ability to have that control, like really realize what it means to have control. Control of all of our data, our assets, et cetera, and be able to navigate through this space and interact with various people across the globe without any restrictions or limitation. I think as a Black woman, it also means freedom, financial freedom, right? Because we're seeing more and more by participating or being able to participate in cryptocurrencies, the entire African diaspora is now at I wouldn't say at a level, but it's now getting to a point where they're feeling comfortable interacting with the rest of the world, right? They're not they're not being left behind with this technology, right? We have people from all walks of life, all tribes and cultures who are involved in this cryptocurrencies, and through this International Women of Blockchain event, we're seeing that it's not just our community, is other communities as well, right? We have people in Latin America that are interacting and getting involved in this space as well. So it is creating opportunities and pathways. And what is also allowing us to do is allowing us to build that community. So decentralization to me is community. It's also a shift in mindset, right? because we have to know that in a centralized world, there are issues, right? And it's not just issues for us, but it's issues for other humankind, right? And we have to be cognizant and realize that, right? So we can't navigate freely or transition freely into a decentralized world if we're assuming that everything is okay for everybody in Web 2, because we're destined to repeat that crap in Web 3. And we don't want that. We really want to create a space where everyone gets to participate. No one is seeking control or power and all these things, because it's spread around, right? And and I might be painting a utopia here, but what's to say that we cannot achieve utopia? I mean, it is the 21st century. We have all kinds of technologies at our beck and call, right? So we have the capability of building something. And the way to go about creating utopia is if we stop this divide that we're creating. It's man-made. It's a man-made divide, right? So now if we're all interacting as a series of numbers, we get to eliminate that, right? We get to live in a society that where it's built on trust, because we're relying on this technology to build that trust. Now, mind you, yes, I know, it still requires human involvement and human factor and all that stuff. And I do agree with that. But I do think ultimately we can get to a place where everyone is equal. Everyone is equal. Everyone is able to participate. No one is left behind. And we're working and living and breathing in a society where, we see each other, and that's important. We see each other, we acknowledge each other, and we respect each other. And I think that's important. That's what my thesis or hypothesis is about the decentralization. So with that said, I am going to go to Tim on Clubhouse. Tim, are you there? All right, I'm going to skip Tim. Natasha, are you there?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you are. Okay, Tim.
Sorry. I was talking on mute.
All right.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm excellent. So for me to answer the question, it's such a loaded question. Like, I cannot tell you just how excited I am about learning everything that I'm learning, right, on the one hand. But on the other hand, it's a little scary. Like, once you start realizing like how certain aspects of the system that we're in right now, like how it works and like how dangerous it is. I think it's both like, revolutionary, as far as us being able to utilize blockchain technology and, these and new currencies and like the potential there, but there's also at the same time there's like this potential for it to be what I call like, utilized for evil, but the thing about that is like, in order for us to combat that, like, more of us who have to get educated and who are creatives and have to come to this space so that there can be more of us and we can like, get our foothold in this ecosystem, like before, like, it's too late, and so I think that with the more positive people that come to this space that are looking to utilize this technology to help move not just ourselves, women, Black people, all the disenfranchised, all of us forward, like, but this is it's for everyone, right? So being that it's for everyone, it literally means for everyone. And so it's exciting, but it's also scary. So I want to see more people like me. Like, I want to see more people that value the things that I value. Like, my community, the people that I connect with, really just get into this space and begin to like, find their place, and let's connect and, create our world. Cause we literally can do that through like, we can create the world that we've been wanting to see. And it's a very important, it's really like, it's critical, at this point. It is critical that more of us begin to get in this space, and it's super exciting. And like I said, scary, but exciting at the same time. And the best thing to do to fight your fears, I find, is just get educated. If you're scared about what a CBDC could mean, like, educate yourself. if you're scared about going to where we're utilizing, I had someone say, like, that's weird and it's crazy, and to think about having clothes that I'm paying for in the metaverse, to wear them on in real life. That's kind of weird. Like, how is it going to look? Well, educate yourself, and I feel like the best way to combat your fears and your questions is through education. And this space has really been phenomenal. And I just want to thank you, Yinka, Nicole, all of our entire committee, like every speaker that has come through has literally taught me something. I was saying this earlier. I have not spent a single day yet. This is our 9th day in March in which I haven't learned something, or which I haven't taken away value from the conference. And so, from the International Women in Blockchain Conference. So that's just an example of how we can begin, I think, to spread this information and really impact other people's lives. And so that's what I would say. And I'm great.
Thank you, Tam. Thank you very much. Natasha, what about you?
Hi. Decentralization means to me that, like you said, those in the community, and in some sense, trusting each other, even though we don't know who we are, because we are all numbers, so some sort of serial numbers. And we can all, build on different platforms and create different things. And we can stake and lend and be in control of our own finances until whatever the regulations come or whatever they say. But in the sense that we can somewhat control our own finances, our own crypto, our own what goes on in our wallet, who we want to lend stuff to, who we want to what we want to participate in. So just basically, it means being in a community and somewhat trusting each other.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Natasha. Michael, what about you? What does decentralization mean to you?
Thank you very much. I didn't give any credit where credit was due for letting me on here. I appreciate what you're doing. I was in a room with you before, and I just wanted to say thank you very much. And then decentralization to me, I mean, first off, it's important to know that decentralization is just an added word with a prefix of D. So to define decentralization, you kind of need to know what centralization first is. And that is that I'm going to have to go this way. One entity controls everything. So like central bank, like you put your money into the funds and you think that you have control over your funds, but it's actually that one entity, the central bank, that has control over your funds. So centralization is one thing having control over the collective. And the D part of that is like oppose, like the complete opposite. So it's a little hard to define in that way, and that's why it's important to define what centralization is first, because decentralization doesn't have a defined term. It's just the exact opposite of centralization. So decentralization is not control of one entity. It's a collective. It's a community thing that needs to dictate what's the next step, or what controls what, or what powers go where. And that doesn't completely mean that you have full control over your funds. Especially when you're thinking about blockchain, because the way the blockchain works is on a consensus protocol, which means that like only specific people, which would either be the ones that control the nodes or that have a certain amount of stake in there, or the miner owners, they're the ones that kind of dictate what happens with the blockchain. And the benefit to that is that it's not one single person that's doing it. It's a collective, and you would hope that the protocols, in order to allow someone to become a node or a miner, would be good enough that they would be what's called in blockchain technology an honest node or an honest miner. And you would hope that you have enough of those that they would make the right decision. And to me, that's what I mean when you're talking about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. That's what decentralization means. For decentralization in the community, I would say what United States was supposed to be. That was a really, really good form of decentralization. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be as such, but it was the United States, and each state was an entity, and they were all united in a decentralized way. Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that would be my definition. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much, Michael. Damien, what about you? All right, Damien.
Okay, cool. I just had to cross over to the app. My bad. Love that answer. And decentralization to me is sovereignty. Like it deals with the American thing, and not your keys, not your cheese. No one can tell me what to do, when to do it. And if I make a loss, that's my bad. If I make a gain, that's my win. And the ability to take a minimal amount of dough and move around in various spaces with various coins to make gains and have increased revenues. That's something that, like, you always have to go to a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6 or 6 to 2 to get money. And in this space, one can use their brain in an entirely different way to get that store of value, to get that dough. And it just sort of takes down the walls of what is money and what people can do to get money, and currency that is based around things that cannot be duplicated or counterfeited. It's beyond novel. Like, it's like someone from the other side came through and touched down and was like, well, I gave y'all the pyramids, here's Bitcoin. And that's kind of the fascination that I have with it all, and am eager to keep learning more and understanding more about how it all works and how to make it best work for me to increase my sovereignty.
Okay. Thank you, Damien. Frederick, what about you? What does decentralization mean to you?
So I suppose there's several echelons or levels to the decentralization that exists within blockchain technology. I'll definitely use Bitcoin because it's the baseline and the original that most other base their protocols off of. I'll start by saying that the way nodes and miners are set up to maintain a copy of the ledger, the distributed ledger, and record all transactions is key to the whole thing. And that's two parts, right? The protocols are the rules and regulations, if you will, that govern how Bitcoin operates. And so a node can go down and your transaction will be routed to a different node. They operate independently of one another. Now, I believe what Michael was speaking to was that 51% consensus of the nodes or miners in the system. Because a node can operate independently and yet still operate as part of a system and require 51% consensus, it enables Bitcoin to pretty much survive. Like, it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I always tell people it's almost like omnipresence, right? Because nations and governments that are used to power use 4 different mechanisms, right? You have diplomacy, information, and military and economics. But with the decentralized structure, you can't send an army or a spy or some person with nefarious intentions to sabotage the network as a whole. Because if my node is up to no good, that transaction is still going to flow through the rest of the network, and the other nodes will pick up on it to keep everybody honest. So, a quick note, in the beginning, one of the biggest concerns about Bitcoin was the fact that there weren't enough nodes yet. I mean, back then, I think there were a few hundred of them, you know what I mean? But now there are thousands. They're on every continent with the exception of Antarctica, and I'm thinking that a true hardcore Bitcoiner is going to put one there just to say that Bitcoin is on all 7 continents. Having said that, there's another level, right? On the individual level, on the micro level, my first purchase of Bitcoin ever was to buy a t-shirt. That t-shirt cost me a half a Bitcoin. That tells you how long I've been in the game, right? So, because I could hand someone cash, and that guy showed me how to put the app on my phone and gave me enough Bitcoin to buy that t-shirt, then that enabled me to not only, operate as in like Bitcoin is almost cash, if you will, if I have a digital device, but it also enabled me, the app itself enabled me to reach across the planet and engage in international commerce. And it also enabled me to work around or bypass barriers to entry that are, commonplace with different securities that are out there. There are a lot of things that if you aren't already a millionaire and a certified investor, you won't have exposure to, right? And so that decentralized nature puts us all in a position that we don't have to be economically elite to gain exposure to the world's hardest and more sure-footed asset. And so for me, that decentralization definitely operates both, at the institutional level where it threatens centralized banking, at the individual micro level where we can transact with one another both digitally or exchanging, something in the real world for our Satoshis. And then the last piece is that the mining network itself, I think right now is truly decentralized. And one last note, just for everybody, for historical reasons, if you go back and read the white paper, it's 9 pages long, but if you don't include the credits and stuff, it's about 8 pages long, right? One of the things that Satoshi Nakamoto wanted was for people to be able to mine Bitcoin on on laptops and stuff, right? The thought process was that, the technology would advance and people would be able to do that. Well, ASICs and mining pools came along, and the pooling thing was a really, really big concern. Like, for example, China was, had the vast majority of mining going on there. Well, that was a concern to decentralization. Now, a lot of people think, hey, they're out of the game now, they shut it down. But what we have to remember is back then, the mining blocks were significantly larger versus now. So while the United States has the most hash rate right now, there are only, 2 million Bitcoins left. So what's my point in all this? The timing will matter. The technology that you use will matter. And the decentralization, because China has kind of stepped to the side, I think it'll benefit the world as a whole. And the opportunity is there for each one of you to stack your sats and move forward in this space. And I'll rest my mic.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Appreciate that. You gave a wealth of information right now. I appreciate it. Donald.
Yinka,
yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, can I just piggyback and back
yes,
up what
please.
said? It made me think of like another thing like about what decentralization like kind of means to me as well. And it's really just like this removal of like the intermediaries, like in so many different spaces. And that's through like, money, that's through like, having to use apps or whatever, or transact through different coins in order to be able to support somebody that might be somewhere else that's not where I'm at. Like just this removal, like we can really have like what a true free market will look like, right? When it comes to the money, like, but also what other third parties in different aspects of life do we have to go through right now, like, or do we feel like we have to go through right now that we don't have access to each other? It really puts a barrier to creating like a global community You know, it really, because I'm a firm believer in, like, you know, that there aren't as many people on the extremes that are shown, like, you know, through the media, right? There's more of us that are in the middle, want peace, that want certain skills, and because we have to interact with areas, a lot of times we don't get to know that other person in that other place that is actually really similar to us, like, you know, that we can actually really connect with. And so that taking out those third parties where it has to interact with other people and can really interact with ourselves. I don't know, I'm just a romantic, but who knows, like, the love of my life, transact Bitcoin in another country, and now because I actually can trade a Bitcoin currency or Satoshi, like, directly, and not go through like a banking or whatever, who knows? And then happily ever. You never know. That's just kind of the way about it, but voice for it, I really.
Thank you very much, Tam. You were a little bit spotty, but we got the gist of what you said. And that's true. You know, we're connecting with people all across the globe. You never know who you may run into or meet. And that's the beauty of the space. It gives you that opportunity to tap into various individuals across the globe. And I think, you know, that, I mean, if you think about it, we live in this world, right? And to isolate ourselves to only those within a certain radius, and only assume that, you know, your world, it consists of, you know, your country, it's ridiculous when you live on Earth, right? Because Earth has so many different people, so many different countries and continents and stuff. So, you know, being able to interact in this space, it's really opening up our mindset, opening up our ability to tap into other people all across the globe, and I love that. So Donald, welcome. And you know, what does decentralization mean to you?
Well, hey everybody, I'm gonna do this in my George Michael voice. Freedom. To pack on to add and pack on to what everybody else was saying. When you're talking about sovereignty and you're talking about freedom of choice, I think it represents that for a lot of people. I think that's why, especially in our spaces here as Black women in blockchain, we talked a lot about it over the last several months about how it creates a sense of opportunity for our people and for Black women in particular, because that population of Black women is already the fastest growing entrepreneurship population as far as entrepreneur creating jobs and companies. But this blockchain space helps accelerate that, because with the so many possibilities, we talked about them several times here in the rooms, you know, from NFTs to cryptocurrency to whatever else is on the horizon. One thing we have to keep having sight of is this phenomenon we know as blockchain is still relatively new to a lot of people, and some people don't know about it at all. So, you know, if you talk about single-digit percentage of the world's population even being involved in the crypto space or blockchain at all, think about if it's 10%, think about the other 90% that have not even gotten involved in the space yet. Mm-hmm. So that everybody at this point is on the ground floor, as a ground-breaking trailblazer. We're all on the ground level. Yeah. For me personally, as a creator, I think it's perfect for a lot of creators. In fact, just in the last few weeks and the last few months, I've met a lot of people, and I did a lot of reading on people who are in the popular media and celebrities, entertainers. They have just soaked up this whole thing about cryptocurrency and NFTs. Is unbelievable, and it's beautiful to see. And I think that most of us who are also creators, and everybody in this room, I would say as a creator, we have that same opportunity. So we may not have a household name, we may not have the fame, but we definitely have the opportunity. And I think that it provides freedom in that sense, financial freedom. And it also is teaching a lot of people about financial literacy, generational wealth. I'm hearing a lot of people say these terms now: generational wealth, building a legacy, you know, financial literacy. So it's a great thing, I think, and I hopefully if we can weather things like this Ukraine situation and other, you know, situations in our world that create emergencies, as long as we can weather that and keep praying, I think that we all can benefit from it. So that's it.
No, you're right. You're 100% right, and I like the fact that you tied it into what's the crazy that's going on right now, because I'm still amazed that we're at the 21st century and this is what we're dealing with at 21st century. Like, take that in for a second. Technology has advanced. You're navigating through this space, and people are still fighting like in the 21st century. I don't know. To me, it just seems like this is chaos. This is just craziness, right? We should be beyond this, really. A lot of the things that we as humans are holding ourselves back is ridiculous, right? There's no reason why we all just can't, to quote a famous phrase, get along, right? Um, and I don't see the need. I don't see the need of wanting to control things and dictate. I don't see the need. I really don't. And I guess that's why I'm an avid person who's strongly advocating for decentralization, right? However you want to define it, having a space where everyone has control of our assets, control of our data, and we're so beyond what we have in this physical world that we're trying to create something in the metaverse that shows an accurate representation of the worlds that we want to live in, right? Like how is it that we're going online to create a world that we want to live in? Are we giving up on the physical world? That just came to mind. But anyway, so I don't want to dive deep into that. I do want to wrap up. We did not intend for this this live stream / chat to be open for this long. It was just for us to recap the International Women of Blockchain and then broach some of the hot topics that have been circulating. And, I guess it lended itself to a need for thorough discussions. I'm hoping that we get more of this. This is healthy, right? This is very healthy for our community to come to the table, have a discussion, and continue, right? Because we're not going to solve everything in one day, but one thing that we're realizing is that this space is moving forward, right? A lot has changed in the last 2 years, right? Now we have an executive order that's been signed about crypto and how the government is going to, in the U.S., is going to regulate or attempt to regulate or from now on approach this space, right? So there's some clear indications that have been laid out, and some, not indications, but some clear processes and steps that have been laid out for all of y'all to go read. The executive order is in whitehouse.gov. We did post it here and on Clubhouse. We also want y'all to tap into the event that we're putting together. Like, we're not just sitting here talking about it. Like, I wouldn't sit here and talk about an event that I believe is a disaster. No, we've had several people review the event. We put out some replays. We have the opening ceremony out. We also have Worldwide Wednesdays that was conducted last week. So you guys get to tap in, see what that's about. We had some deep discussions, and got to know wonderful women in this space. We have a football player who just recently released her own NFT. We're gonna have we had a world builder, man. A world builder that just came on scene, and she sparked a lot of curiosities from the younger generation, I can say, as well as us older people, because now we all want to learn about blender.org, right? We want to try to see if we can build something. It does take skills, but Artsy is doing it. She's doing it on a grand scale. And she's doing it for like celebrities too, right? She just did Naughty by Nature's worlds, 9 worlds that they were able to travel through when they did their virtual conference or concerts. So there's people like that in our community, and they're women, right? Like, women are doing this, right? So there's no more excuses, right? For this for technology. Women are getting involved. We're out here, we're building, we're creating, and we're showing out throughout this entire month of March. And I want y'all to tap in. Once again, the website is womenofblockchain.org. for $25, as Nicole liked to say. You know, it's $25, less than $1, right, Nicole? You can tap in. Go ahead.
Less than $1 a day, y'all. Less than $1 a day. So $1 a day donation gets you, or less than that, sorry, $25 gets you 31 days of. First of all, I'll be there. Second of all, Yinka will be there. Third of all, other Natasha will be there too, and 97 other women will also be rolling through. So, single fellas, listen up. So, but no, seriously, the knowledge that's being spread, the information that's being shared. We talked about Bitcoin NFTs today. Bitcoin NFTs today. Let me say that one more time. We talked about Bitcoin NFTs today and how people are actually doing that. And there's a whole organization built around doing that, executing on that process. We're sponsored by both Block and Hero and a couple of other folks who have found that what we're doing is viable and valuable. But more importantly than anything else I just said, this conference is historical. So first of all, I'm glad to be a part of it because I'm making history. But it is good because this conference is historical. It is 31 whole entire days of content and information. It is a conference that is running every single day for a month, and that month happens to have 31 days in it. There's over 100 speakers. You are going to get different topics and themes every single day. So, I'll run through them really, really quickly. Monday, Naja Roberts, Mind Your Money Monday. Tuesday, NFTs, Non-Fungible Tuesdays. Wednesday, Worldwide Wednesdays. Thursday is Table Talk Thursdays. Friday, you're hanging out with me and Futuristic Fridays in the metaverse. And Saturday, we have Super Sponsors Saturday, as well as Sunday. We rest and we have self-care Sundays. So, there's going to be something for everybody. The knowledge that is being spread is just unimaginable. You talk about Clubhouse rooms, and we're always in Clubhouse, right? We have a wide exposure to people in Clubhouse, but there are people who are not on Clubhouse. We all kind of talk and feel the same because we're all moving through the same app, and we hear each other talk, and so people start saying their voices are resting, and we all know where that came from. But it's like we have these different things, and we kind of start sounding like each other. It is so refreshing to hear other people talk. And they're not from Clubhouse. They're not from Twitter Spaces. These are people who are doing things in their communities, and they are bringing it to the stage here, the very stage that I'm standing on right now, to share that information on a worldwide scale. So this conference is international. It's full of a whole lot of women who have lots of things to say about the blockchain and where we're heading, as well as doing some things right now on the blockchain that are revolutionary. So many good things. So please tap in. You can purchase your ticket if you're watching the stream. You can purchase your ticket using the link at the bottom. If you are in Clubhouse, that's going to be womenofblockchain.org. I'll pop it into the chat, as well as eventually pin it up on the top of the screen. And yeah, we've been here a long time. It's like 3 hours. What are y'all doing to us? We already had a 3 hour session. So yeah, we're done.
Yes, we are done. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Those of you on LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as the various YouTube platforms. Thank you. Tap in tomorrow for Table Talk Thursdays. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Clubhouse fam. Really appreciate you joining and connecting with us. We will see y'all next time. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Wait, don't close down Clubhouse yet. We're gonna go ahead and go out to our full theme song. And so just ignore this little intermission. I'm gonna actually play I'm gonna play the long version. So we'll go through one iteration, and then the stream will go ahead and end. I'm gonna move Shirley down so she doesn't inadvertently wake up. But we're gonna go ahead and play that now, and here we go. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you.
Don't forget to dance.
Yeah, and then at the end of this, I will play the ending. So you'll know when the stream's actually going to end. So here we go. Bye. Thanks for supporting. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to like and retweet if you're on Twitter. And don't forget to like because you're on LinkedIn. Make sure that you're following as well. Thank you, guys. Holla.